Okay, so I invite all of you, and for those who just joined, all I was telling is that this talk on market sizing is relevant for all three people. If you're an entrepreneur who's trying to venture out and trying to get funding for your venture, two, if you're a product manager, an existing product manager, and you have a great idea for your company to build on, your company needs to know business value. Three, if you're an aspirant, a product management aspirant, and you are giving an interview, you may be asked questions on market sizing. So irrespective of who you are, this is valuable. All right. Now, with that context on market sizing, I want to show you a video. Okay. Since we were talking about Shark Tank, and I believe Prasanna, you've not seen Shark Tank, this will give you a very good picture of what happens in that show. It's an abridged version. It's a 9-minute long video, which I have cut down short to 3 minutes because it helps me. Okay. So here is a Shark Tank is what went wrong with this pitch and why did the sharks decide not to invest in his venture?
I think he was not able to justify the 6,000 crore valuation with the market size.
So I'll just clarify. So valuation was 1,200 CR.
Correct. And total market size of 6,000 crore of ice cream business in India. So he was not able to really provide or justify that.
Okay. Sorry, justify what?
How did he arrive at 6,000? So what's the math behind it?
Okay. Any other inputs?
Yeah, I have seen this episode.
Okay.
So basically he was trying for the foreign expansion, and that's why he was looking for, that 300 crore rupees from sharks. But they said ki if you will capture, let's say this much percentage of, the market, still you need years to go to that percentage. So that's why he failed. He will be, he should have that much year to go to that value, and that's why he failed.
Okay.
And his valuation is almost of the
Yeah,
which is quite high.
Can I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead. I hear two voices.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Sushmita. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Sushmita,
Yeah, so actually, maybe it is similar to Nikhil. The thing is, might be, I mean, however the product is sold in India, it may not be sold in foreign markets. I mean, the customers there might require different needs and have different priorities. So the product must be different.
Sure. Foreign market is different. Any other takers? By the way, all these answers are right. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sandeep, am I audible?
Yes.
So Sandeep, while the total market size is 6,000 crores, he could only show in present 1 crore of profit. So which means that as is, and I mean, in today's term, he hasn't captured the entire market size or significant market size, and his plans are much higher than what he is doing today.
Fantastic. Any other last takers? One last input I want.
Yeah, so Sandeep, this is Vincent. I would like to share something.
Okay, last two takers. I hear two voices. Pawan, why don't you go first, and then I don't know who the second voice was.
This is Vincent.
Yeah, the total market size he estimated is 6,000 crores, out of which he is valuating his company at 1,200 crores, which is almost 20% of the total addressable market, which is quite high. That is basically there is an underlying assumption that he can capture 20% of the market by valuing himself at 1,200 crores, which is quite high.
Great. Any other one last input?
Yeah. So Sandeep,
Shripad here. Sorry.
Okay, so I have two voices again. I heard Shripad and I heard another voice. Sorry, who was that other voice? I would let you go first because you were saying something earlier as well.
Yeah, Sandeep, this is Vincent. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Vincent, please go ahead. Vincent and then Shripad, and that's it. Yeah, please, Vincent, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Jinsen.
Jinsen. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So Sandeep, first of all, this 6,000 crore, the total population of India is 138 crores.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm not able to understand how he came up with this 6,000 crore. Okay, maybe that is the right number. Then in terms of, the 20% of total addressable market, that's, I'm not sure how he is able to justify that he will be able to expand to 300 crores. So there is no logic behind the numbers which he is stating.
Fair point. Shripad, you were saying something?
Yeah. So my point is that maybe the total market size of 6,000 crores all over the world, I will still take it. But what I would have liked is that to start with an targeted audience where we can capture the market and then expand the business would have been better, because the sharks would have got an idea of what is the targeted audience, what is the current market for that, and the valuation would have been far better.
So honestly, all your answers are right. Okay.
Sandeep, do you mind if I give one input, please?
Sure, please do.
So if big brands like Quality Worlds or Amul, I mean, introduce such products like Ayurvedic ice cream, so how they can compete with these big brands, because everyone will take Amul and Quality Worlds only.
Very, very fair point. Okay. And I would stop here. But there was a very interesting thing that was being called out here, huh? And this is what we'll do. Let's understand an entrepreneur's mindset when you are even beginning, huh? And I also fall prey to this problem. And I'll tell you what that problem is called. That problem is called having an anticipation of growth and therefore feeling very positive about your idea. A lot of us, when we have an idea in our mind, right, we are already trying to pitch that idea to others. We have a ton of positivity. Otherwise, why would we even invest our time, effort, money, leave our jobs and therefore try to get into a venture, right? We feel very gung-ho about it. We feel very positive about it. And that positivity, right, blares our mindset. And quite honestly, imagine, this guy is not a novice. He's already making a business of around 3 or 4 crores per annum. That's a big deal. That's maybe bigger than maybe most of our salaries, right? So he's not a novice. But at the same point, when you are having that, when you start thinking about an idea, right, you kind of build a la-la land around you, thinking that my idea is worth way bigger than what I anticipate. And this problem I have seen happening with a lot of people. Because it's your idea, you feel that, oh, my idea is way bigger than what the others may assume. And this is what we will delve deep into. There was a very interesting thing. There are two aspects that we need to understand as part of this entire pitch. The first aspect is, what value are you bringing in? Now, what was the value that he was bringing in? He was bringing the value of, basically what is the value is nothing but a benefit, right? He's saying vegan ice creams, prebiotic, probiotic, dietary fibers, etc., 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 Ayurvedic ice creams. Now, that is the value that he is bringing in. If you see, the value that he is bringing in is also the scope of his market. There are few people, is he trying to eat up into the yogurt market? Is he trying to eat up into not just the ice cream market, but kuch meeta ho jaye market? Is he eating into the ice cream and chocolate market? You getting it? Is he eating into the sweets market in general? So we need to understand what market are you entering by virtue of the value that you're providing. And that's how people inflate their value. Because he in his mind may be thinking, since I'm doing dietary fibers, people who want dietary fibers in their meals, I will basically go have a conversation with Cult.fit and then I'm no more an ice cream shop only. I am also a health brand. You see how I started inflating my own value? I'm not looking at ice cream anymore. I've just inflated my total market size. Does that make sense? And a lot of us do it because of the positivity that we have. Now, see, I have articulated some value. Therefore, I can inflate my valuation. And what's my valuation here? It's just the fair value of my firm. Okay. Now, he's saying 300 crore is a 25% valuation, and therefore I continue to value my company at 1200 crore, which no doubt, in our opinion, is an inflated valuation. And we will delve deep into that, okay, because that's market sizing. And I will give you a live use case of, let's do a market sizing for a problem, okay, and we will see whether we are on the inflated side or not, okay. How do you find valuation? There are several ways. There are 10 different ways by which you can do it. But in your mind, just think this way. What is it that you give versus what is it that you get? Very simple English. What are your assets minus what are your liabilities? What do you bring to me versus what is it that you cannot bring to me? What are your assets? Building, equipment, inventory, cash, brand, synergies. What are synergies? If I acquire you, and this is the same that we do in M&A, right? When you're acquiring a brand or when you're valuing a brand, there is why are some companies who are not even making profit so high on valuation? For the simple reason that the potential that you can bring later is way higher. You are sitting on a pile of 300,000 customers. That's a great valuation because the potential of you making some money is higher minus whatever your liabilities are. I don't want to get into these details. You can find 6 different ways to do valuation. I just wanted to give you a hint at it. But one very important thing that he talked about was, how do you find a valuation for a company which has not earned a single dollar? How do you predict your future income? See, because in his case, it was easy, right? We said, array, 4 crore business, 4 crore business can't scale to 1200 crore business. You can't value yourself this much. A lot of us have ideas. Ideas ka kya value hai? How do you predict your market size for an idea which has $0 for the next 2 years maybe? Why we will be investing in something, building something, right? Therefore, where do you start? You start with something called what is your predicting your future income. And as you can see, I've clearly said, it's not a science, it's an art. You can't be ever sure of what your future income will be. And where do you start? You start with your TAM. I'm going to play a video. It's a very short video. Listen through this. If you're not able to listen to it, I will repeat. Okay? It's in Hindi. If you're not able to understand, I will in any case translate.
TAM या टोटल एड्रेसेबल मार्केट एक ऐसा एस्टिमेट होता है जिससे कोई भी प्रोडक्ट या सर्विस की सालाना सेल्स अपॉर्चुनिटी का अंदाजा लगाया जा सकता है.
So basically what he was saying is, I don't know whether you heard it. What he was saying is, there is a term called TAM. TAM is a total addressable market, which basically says what's the overall opportunity that is available to a product or a service. And I'm going to hold there. I know some of you are aware of TAM, some of you are not aware of TAM. And we will do a small exercise to understand TAM. Does that make sense? And it's an onion peeling exercise. Slowly we'll do the onion peeling of TAM. Okay. So I have a problem for you. I want you to find the total addressable market for a pizza store in US. Okay. Again, I go off my presentation mode. Total addressable market of a pizza store in US. That's the question. I'll give it up to you. Please come up. How will you find the total addressable market of a pizza store in US? Over to you. Let the inputs come. I will keep typing in a particular structure.
What is the population of US?
Great, population of US. Let's put it at 330 million. Yes.
Past sales figures.
You're opening a new store. Let's assume it's a new store. You remember I said it's a new store because when you are in an interview or when you have an idea or when you're an entrepreneur, more often than not, let's assume we are not making any money. Then it's exciting. Na? Otherwise, revenue hai to uska 10x kar do. Anyways, please go on. So previous sales values are not there. What is the TAM for pizza store in US? Population is great. Viresh, I think so you said that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Price of the pizza.
Price of a pizza, yes. So let's assume the price of the pizza is $10. Okay.
Break-even point.
Break-even point will come when you're talking about revenue and cost. We are still finding the total addressable market. Break-even point is not valid right now. We are not thinking revenue and cost.
How many of these 330 million are interested in having a cuisine like pizza? Like let's say Italian.
Yeah.
Any good assumption?
Demographics of the region.
Population maybe like
age 5 to means age 10 to age 25 or 30.
Sure. 5 to 30, you don't want 40-year-olds to eat pizza? Or maybe
I mean,
my
yeah, I mean,
grandmother?
that's
I would
starting as a
say, I would say right from like maybe 18 years onwards till let's say 50 could be a
No,
good.
no, my 6-year-old eats pizza, yaar.
Okay.
5-year to 85-year. Don't worry about that. 330 million people. Give me just an estimate, rough estimate. How many people eat pizza?
Let's say 75% of the population.
7. Oh, Baba. Too high, huh? Okay. Okay, let's assume
50%.
75%. Okay.
75% eat once a week, maybe.
Great. Once a week. Great. So
Not really, maybe
52
twice a week.
weeks. So 52
Teenagers
weeks.
are more, interesting audience for this. Teenagers.
Sorry, say that again.
They most likely eat pizzas often,
Who?
very often. Teenagers.
Okay. But I'm just blanketing it, huh? But otherwise we'll have to do by demography. Imagine this is in your interview. You are doing your PM interview. If you say teenagers eat pizza, right? I will catch you right there, like I did earlier. Why? My grandmother eats, my kid eats. So imagine it's your interview question. How will you size this market?
And in US, many of them eat pizza. It's in the case with India that teenagers and youngsters eat, but it's not the case in US. So.
Let's move ahead. So 330 million, 75% eat pizza once a week. Then what?
So
How do I find it?
one
Value?
doubt can be: is it like a one store or it's like a franchise? Or it's a branch, like it's available in all cities.
It's a new store.
That's a great question. We are finding the total addressable market for pizza. What is the total market of pizza in US?
Okay, got it.
So assuming one person eats it 52 times in a year, and 75% people eat it, so that would be like 3/4 of 52.
Into 330. Into the price. Pizza.
Yeah.
A great dollar value, by the way. And I think so. This will come to what 15 times 3, 45 by 4, 10. I think so. It will come to around 150 billion. Somewhere around that, or maybe even more than that. Maybe 1,500 billion. Can somebody do the calculation? I think so. It will be somewhere around this. And this is great. TAM for pizza in US is somewhere around that. I did exactly the same calculation, exactly the same. And I said population is 330 million. I was very conservative. I said only 10% of all Americans eat pizza. They will eat 52. Great variation. Your inputs were great, huh? That 52 weeks. And I said, okay, then therefore we are eating 52 times 30, which is around whatever, 150 million pizzas. Each pizza is costing $10. Therefore, I size my market as 15 billion. Of course, yours will be way bigger than 15 billion because you assume 75%, and that's fair. And this is where you remember in the last conversation, we talked about smart assumptions. This is where smart assumptions hold. And if you're able to justify 75% or 10%, both of them work. But that's my total addressable market. Now, my question to you is this $15 billion my revenue potential for my shop?
No, this is the total addressable market.
This is the total addressable market. And by the way, when you are a product manager or you're entrepreneur or whoever you are, right? This TAM value you will get in most research papers. So I said, okay, I want to enter the healthcare market. The healthcare market itself is around $300 billion in 2020. And let's say I'm Microsoft and I'm trying to enter the healthcare market. Does that mean I will make $300 billion? Absolutely not. Healthcare market will include any revenue I'm making out of an operation, any revenue I'm making out of diagnostics, any revenue I'm making out of blood tests. That's the healthcare market, the overall healthcare market size, right? Now, and I'm not, if this is home healthcare market, I don't know, home healthcare market will contain other things. If you look at, I don't know, movie making market, let's say their total TAM is $200 billion. That will also include the revenue you're making out of, I don't know, salaries, like they will include the cost of salaries for actors, etc. So that TAM is the overall market size. This is not the revenue potential of the shop. Therefore, what do we do next? By the way, on this, I just wanted to articulate here, this guy almost assumed his shop's revenue is 20% of the TAM. Somebody said that. But yeah, that is very, very high. And I think so, Nikhil, you said there is Amul and Quality Walls and Dairy Milk. वो कहाँ जाएंगे सब लोग? And therefore, you see that inflation that happens in your mind. Okay, I understood. TAM is not the total market for this pizza shop. How do I cut it down further? We came to $15 billion together. What do we do next?
Find out the revenue potential.
Yes, and that's a question to you. What's the revenue potential? $15 billion
Divided
is
by
the total pizza eating in
The amount
divided
of
by the number of pizza available. Divided by the number of pizza main prime time pizza things available.
divided by the
Often you are-
population, the target group. It's divided by the target group. And
Sandeep,
then we
I
can
Sandeep,
What,
I
sorry,
think
what do you
we
mean by
need
target group? Whoever said that?
So yeah, it's me. So for example, he must be opening his shop in a particular area. So might be his population is way less. So he would divide with the number of target group and then make pizzas as per the requirement.
Sure. Any other thoughts?
So Sandeep, I
Market
think
size.
they like pizza, but they have other options as well. So let's say there are 10 different cuisines. So it's actually just 10% of this population who might go for a pizza in a day.
So
Can
you're
that
saying
be?
1.5 billion is my total
Yeah.
actual potential.
It could be around 4 to 5% of what exactly the entire market is for my
How did
industry.
you come at 4% of 15 billion? On what basis? What's your
Correct,
assumption?
sir. Equivalence.
I will consider the number of people who are there
So,
actually in this market and
এটা
what
photo
they
বেশ,
are
আমি
doing.
কিন্তু Google Lens এ গেলে
Guys, there is an over. Wait a minute. Can you raise hand so that we can go in order? Otherwise, there is a lot of crosstalk happening. Can you please raise your hand?
কপি
That'll be easy.
ইউআরএল আর আমি তোমাকে ইউআরএল টা হোয়াটসঅ্যাপ করছি, তুমি এখানে যাও, এটা
Okay.
ক্লিক করো,
Oh,
তোমার
I
কাজ হয়ে যাবে।
understand. There's not a crosstalk. Wait a minute. Let me mute. Okay, I thought there was a crosstalk. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, please go ahead. Who was saying? Jensen, you were saying. Naveen, you were saying. I don't know who was saying.
Yeah, I was saying.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So, entire means 100% market we cannot capture, and there are many partners who means many people who are into that business. But we can imagine around 3-4% based on our potential, our aim, our vision, our analysis. So based on that we can do.
Okay, so you are saying that the total US market is $15 billion, and I am 3% because 97% is with the rest of the competition. Therefore, I'm cutting it down. Okay, Sushmita, why don't you go next, please?
Yeah, so I think it must be only 1% according to me because he must be just opening in a particular area with the population of the way less. 30 million, I think 3 million would be
So,
even more.
Sushmita, think like that, right? You are in an interview, and
Yeah.
I have said find the pizza revenue potential for my shop. What's your question to me? We can't just come up with 1 or 2%.
So, what is the population for around 4 kilometers in the radius? What is the population of?
That's a great question, and I'll come to that. Prasanna, why don't you go next?
I think we got the total share. Now let's go for total number of pizza guys that are out there. Divide it. That's when we will get our share. What is our share? If there are
How will you
guys
find
like
that? Prasanna, my question back to you. How will you find that total number of pizzas out in the market? How will you find?
I think since you are giving the question, you will be helping me with that because this total available
No.
is also given to me by you.
Prasanna, it's very difficult to find total number of pizzas out there, right? You just told me. I'll tell you very simple. If $15 billion is a total addressable market and each pizza is $10, then there are 1.5 billion pizzas. Simple.
Not pizzas, pizza guys. How many pizza shops are there?
Oh,
Like
pizza
my
shops. Okay. You are saying total number
When I
of
divide
pizza
it,
shops.
I'll get my share.
Okay, okay. You're saying total pizza shops and then divide $15 billion with the total number of pizza shops. Fair point. That's a great point. Prasanna, how many pizza shops are there in US? How will you size that?
I think one every 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs as a guesstimate. That's the best I could make.
Great. One shop every 5 lakh people. Therefore, 330 million people divided by 5 lakh will give you the total number of pizza shops and whatever, 15 billion divided by that number. Sure, Jinson?
Okay, so my objective here, can you hear me, Sandeep?
Yes.
Okay, so my objective here is to find out my total total serviceable market, right? Yeah, so in that case, what I would do is we have already have the TAM, which is $15 billion. Suppose, assuming that I have to find out how much I can service, right? So before that, I would have to basically define what is my product. Is it catered to this adults in the age group like above 45 or whatever, right? So depending on that age group, so then I can find out what is the percentage of the total US population percentage. So it will help me understand what is the total serviceable market. Hope,
So Jensen, there is a slight mistake here. Huh? Imagine it's a shop.
Okay.
In a shop, how do you contain people who are 45 and above? Right? And therefore I'm saying, and you're making an assumption, right? And I told you these market sizing questions are all about making intelligent assumptions. If you say my market is only 45 and above, I just told you my child eats it, 6-year-old. My grandmother eats it. My mother eats it.
Yeah. So no,
I eat it. And I'm less than 40.
Sandeep, what I'm saying is, if suppose my my product, my ice cream caters to only in the age group of say, if I'm saying that it is, I will provide ice creams for in that total serviceable market, then in that case, I will have to find out the competition. Okay, what is the current competition and what are their sales, which might help me understand the, suppose there are quality walls Amul, I will say they are making X, Y, then I would be able to understand what is the current competition, how much sales is going on, and how much I can capture from them, and how much new market I can expand to.
Fair point. Fair point. That's another way to slice. That's a very fair point. So I'm deliberately not going to age because you're talking about pizza shop. And pizza shop will not restrict entrance by age unless and until you open your pizza shop in a city where the average demography is above 45 or something like that, right? That may have an impact, but not otherwise. Naveen, why don't you go ahead and yours will be the last input.
Yeah, so kind of got covered with when Jensen said that. Both points, right? One is what are the alternatives that a customer has? There could be 10 different cuisines, so 1.5 billion. And then what are the alternatives within pizza as a category? So there might be 3 different brands who are selling pizza. So I'm basically just getting 1/3 of that 1.5 billion. So that is my targetable or my achievable market. So
sorry, I didn't understand. How did you come at $5 billion as an addressable market?
1.5 billion. So from 15 billion, what are the alternatives to pizza? Someone might want to go with Chinese, someone might want to go with Indian. So they're going to get spread across all these 10, let's say 10 different cuisines. 10 is an assumption. So out of 15 billion, just 1.5 billion is something which is interested on pizza on a particular day because the others are going to other cuisines. And out of that 1.5 billion, within pizza as a category, there are 3 different competitors. One is Domino's, one is Pizza Hut, and one more. So 1/3 of that 1.5 billion is what I can achieve. Is how I'm funneling it down to.
Got it, Naveen. But I must caution you, huh? This is where your smart assumptions come in. I think so. Sushmita said it. And correct me if I'm wrong. It was not Sushmita because I couldn't see at that time. I am again and again saying pizza shop in US. At this moment, and I believe it was Anirban who said, find the total number of shops in US and then just divide $15 billion with that. That's my approximate number, right? When you are saying you're almost comparing my shop to Domino's, which has 2,000 stores. Maybe your question back to me is how many stores do you have? Right? Okay, Sripad has his hand raised because what you will come up with is a very inflated value and therefore I'm questioning your assumption. And this is what is important. in your PM interview because I'm validating on how smart your assumptions are. This is equally valuable when you are valuing your own company. Otherwise, you will say, oh, I'm comparing myself to, and maybe that's what this guy was doing in the initial video that I showed you. He was comparing himself with quality walls. He was saying, oh, quality walls is 30%. Mother dairy is 30%. This guy is 30%. I'll get the rest. But those guys have vendors on the street. You are just one shop. So are you doing an apple to apple comparison becomes an important question. Sripad, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, so I have one point. So probably I will take what is my pizza cost, right? So the pizza cost can start from $10, but I may service it at $13 to $15. What is the affordability of the people who reside in that particular area? That becomes one of the input for me to size the market.
Totally agree, Sripad. Very, very important point that you raised. But again, I'm coming back to, and Sripad, that's a very valid point, that am I a blue ocean in terms of business model? Boat example everybody's seen, right? Headphones were either very, very expensive or dirt cheap. There was no middle layer for it. Same thing happened with one of those phones, right? The OnePlus. iPhone either very, very expensive or lava type of phones which are very, very cheap. There was no mid segment. They opened up a phone in the mid segment and people went by the scores. Is your business model such which is catering to a particular demography which is absolutely not open? Very, very valid point, Sripad. In case of an interview, I will go back to what I believe Sushmita you said. Huh? My addressable market is not in US. भैया एक store खोल रहा हूँ, New York में खोल रहा हूँ. Where, and that's your question back. And I think so you all came up with that you are again saying one store. Find me all the stores, divide by that. That's a great way. If it is in New York, then we repeat what Viresh did for US. I'll repeat it for New York, right? So I'll go back to New York and I will say, by the way, a term for you. And I think so, Jinson, you said it. What's my serviceable market? Not total addressable market. I'm cutting it short. I'm scoping it down. What is serviceable addressable market? And I'll take a pause here. You won't be surprised if you open business plans of a lot of entrepreneurs and they assume that the total addressable market is their total potential to earn revenue. I have seen so many cases where journey stops at TAM. The journey does not stop at TAM. It's your serviceable addressable market. Population of America 330 million, I don't care. Population of New York 8 million, I care. Right? Now you do the same mathematics. 10% is 800k, 52 weeks is 800 times 52. Each pizza is $10. Therefore, my serviceable market is only 400 million and not 15 billion. Okay. You remember that example of healthcare for Microsoft? Microsoft is known for cloud. Healthcare, we remember $200 billion. So I'll come to that, sorry. The term that I'm introducing is SAM here. So if you see here, I was talking about $200 billion of my total market in healthcare. What Microsoft can get out of it is 3.73 billion, which was in last year, which is inflating to around 10 billion by 2020. That's it. That's the amount of revenue that Microsoft can make, $10 billion, not 200 billion. So what is SAM? SAM is a market opportunity that exists within a firm's existing competencies. Is it lower than TAM? Hell yeah. Does it cater to the market that you wish to target? Absolutely. Therefore, the number is not $15 billion, but 800 million. I'll take a pause. Is this the right revenue value? Am I inflating my numbers?
Yeah, it can be lesser.
US market, right? As in New York's pizza market, sorry.
Yes.
So out of this, I will get a share of this, basically. If I have only one store in New York, then that the sales of, maybe I have to compare it maybe with the nearby stores rather. And maybe if I'm offline only, then maybe it's just the walk-in customers and not the online. And if I'm online, then maybe I will be able to serve the whole thing. So
Go on.
that's where the business constraint comes in, and
So it will depend on the reach, right? How much?
Make some assumptions and tell me your value.
Okay.
You are right. This is total New York pizza value. I am talking about your store. How will you find it? It's an interview question.
Yeah.
Tell me.
So Sandeep, again going back to the basics, the population. How much? How many number? How much of the percentage of US population stays in my neighborhood where I can provide my pizza?
Make an
right?
assumption. Go ahead. Go ahead. I want a dollar value at the end in 2 minutes.
Okay. Suppose suppose if I take a 5% of the population stays in my locality and within my reach.
Okay.
So this sorry, 5% of the New York's population
Sure.
is within my reach.
Sure. Sure.
5%, and this five. Then again, in that 5%, there would be some who will be less than say 5 years, which we took, which is 5 years and above is the people who will eat my pizza.
How do I subtract that? I want a dollar value at the end of our conversation.
so we can use the same assumption, right? 10%, like we had used earlier.
At 10% we considered here, no? People who eat pizza, 8 million residents and I don't even know why 8 million is right or not. I didn't even search. I just put this number. Please check how many residents are there in New York. People who eat pizza is 800K, 52 weeks, what Viresh said, and then 400 million. Okay. Now what do I do? This is New York market. You're right. Make some smart assumptions and you quick.
See, how I will look at it is if my store, wherever it is, I will look at my nearby. I mean, I will say that, okay, I will, there are, say, maybe 50 districts in New York, which are there in New York area. And out of that 50 zones, I will actually, the spread is equal, as in equal populations are there. So then out of that, I will be able to service only 5 districts, which are my nearby because I have a business constraint. I don't have online, I only have offline.
So, so ours is 400 million divided by 10 because you said 50 districts, equal distribution. We are servicing 5. So 50 divided by 5 is 10. So 40 million is my total potential. Okay. Any other takers?
Then number of stores I can, I think already existing stores that are there in this district, 5 districts.
Oh, okay. So you are saying in those 5 districts there are additional stores. How many?
In those 5 districts, maybe 20 stores.
Okay, so $2 million is my total potential. Okay, sure, absolutely. Any other takers? We can slice and dice it various ways, huh? So I have one answer, $2 million. Any others?
Also the market share, right? So there are multiple companies that are making pizzas.
Yes.
And I would plan to grow my market share over time. So I'll start at some place and then slowly grow, right? So this is serviceable addressable market, which is all pizzas that are getting ordered. I will only have a percentage of this pie.
Yes, absolutely. Which, by the way, was something similar to what we did here, where we said that I am only catering to 10 districts, and out of which I am having whatever around
20 stores, yeah.
20 stores. So
20 stores includes that market of others.
Yeah. So you basically divided it by a factor of 200 by districts and stores. Sure. Anything else? Any other ways to slice and dice? Okay. See, the reason I'm putting all of you on a spot here is when you're in an interview, okay, you will have to make those smart assumptions quickly because this sizing question may last for 2 to 3 minutes maximum in an interview, maximum in case you are actually preparing one. So many times, if you are an entrepreneur trying to get into a startup, etc., so many times you will be unable to get direct data in order to find this divisibility factor of 200. It's very, very tough. This is easier. Serviceable addressable market, to further cut it down becomes even tougher. A lot of people stop at serviceable addressable market thinking, oh, this is everything that I will take. People who get to serviceable addressable market is also good. But a lot of people stop here because you take any example, huh? Like imagining boat. Boat is shipping headphones. How do they find their market? They are only online. They are trying to cater to a blue ocean, a complete segment which does not exist. And that segment was called not dirt cheap headphones, but not super expensive headphones also. A middle tier. How do they find that market? Pata hi nahi hai. You don't have a single customer in that range. How do you find it? Right? Same with OnePlus. Neither iPhone expensive nor lava cheap. That's middle tier. How do you even start making assumptions?
Sandeep,
Where do you get data?
Sandeep, I would like to take that one.
Research. Through market research.
The question. It's based on the model that you're competing with. So for example, we can bank on one of the models which we are going up against, and we can plan to say, okay, my product is going to go head on with this particular product, which commands already 5% of the market. So by taking on this product with better features and better channels, I will be able to get 3% of the market. I'll be able to snatch 3% or 50% of that particular product, or 40% of that particular product. I mean, in that particular case, we can bank on them. Am I wrong?
I'll tell you there is a big issue in that assumption. Sorry, who was saying that? Naveen, is it?
No, Prasanna Sai.
Prasanna, I'll tell you there is a big problem in that. When you are trying to create a blue ocean strategy, right? You are creating customers. You're not snatching somebody's customer. You are saying, iPhone, I'm happy with you, your customers. Lava, I'm happy with your customers. I'm going to open up a totally new segment of market. Imagine when iPhone was launched. Did iPhone could compare themselves with Nokia? Could iPhone compare themselves with anything else in the market? It's a totally brand new product, brand new customers. How do you even begin? And this is the same problem that people have when they reach serviceable addressable market. I've deliberately taken a very easy use case. Pizza is a very easy use case. And I know there are some hands raised, but for the interest of time, I'll just proceed. You understood SAM, right? And you've understood that my SAM for healthcare for Azure was $9 billion. You have to be careful here. You, in your interview, right, you may get questions such as this. What do you think is the total market for boat? What is the total market for iPhone? What is the total market for Microsoft Teams? How do you start that? And these are three very valid questions. How do you start slicing and dicing to not stop at TAM, not stop at SAM? This is an easier question because I'm already telling you demography is a kato. But how do you do demography for an online product like Microsoft Teams? There is no demography, right? How do you do that? And you don't stop at 800 million either. You go further down. And somebody was saying, right, my area. If this is my store, I just need to look at my area. Therefore, and this is what I did. I said, okay, SAM is 400 million. Maybe I'll slice and dice, and these are assumptions, right? Frozen pizza, 50% eating, 50% eating warm pizza. My market share is 10%, and I arrived at a similar number basing or I just looked at this and I said, अच्छा यार 10% मान लो 100 तो shops दिख रही है मेरे को तो कर लो divide by 10 my number came to 20 million. But this is where this term becomes important. What's your obtainable market? Once you come to your obtainable market, now this is the number that you are starting with for your year 1, 2, 3 and so on. But then you have to project growth on top. So as good entrepreneurs, as good product managers, as good product management interviews, you don't stop at TAM, you don't stop at SAM, you stop at SOM, which is obtainable market, and then you build growth on top. You won't say that forever my growth is $20 million. Why? Because after that, you will put whoever was saying that, what's my revenue? What's my cost? Therefore, what's my profit? Now I will put that profit back into my company. Therefore, if the cost for getting $20 million was, let's say, $10 million, and I break even in 2 years, then guess what? Year 4, I have a new store. And then because now my revenue potential is doubled, year 5, I get 1 new store. Year 6, I open 5 new stores because now I've put debt and I'm able to take debt and so on and so forth. How are you quick on your feet to come up with similar numbers? And now see what you've done. In your entrepreneurship, in your product management, even in your interviews, you went down to that lowest value and then you grew from that lowest value in a meaningful fashion. You didn't stop at a high value saying, oh, $800 million. You didn't stop there. You came down to 20 million and then you grew your business. And then you said year 2, 20 million, year 5, 40 million, year 10, 100 million, and so on and so forth, right? Again, based on your smart assumptions. Does that make sense? Did these 3 terms make sense to you? This is very important. The TAM, SAM, and SOM.
So Sandeep, in this form,
Yes.
the assumption is that we are not changing the product in the years coming. If we change the product, then maybe this 10% market share might change in future.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But again, like, see, if you're an entrepreneur, right, you will think about your new product. If you're a product manager, you will think about it. In an interview, you don't want to diverge there, right? Maybe you can speak it. But and again, I know that a lot of you are aspirants, PM aspirants. In an interview, and that's why I'm focusing there. In an interview, the person on the other side is trying to see on what basis are you able to make smart assumptions? On what basis are you able to come to a meaningful number? If you stop at 15 billion, गड़बड़ हो गई. If you start at 800 billion, तब भी गड़बड़ हो गया. You have to come down to that lower number and then start telling your product growth potential. And these assumptions are what are important. How do you make those smart assumptions quickly on your feet? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because you started with pizza and then you say, oh, by the way, अभी तो आपने पिज्जा का ही validate नहीं किया ना अपना potential. Whether pizza will sell or not, you don't know. Then you say, oh, by the way, after pizza, I'll also introduce burger in year 3. And therefore, I will grow. But that's it. Your interview, at least your question, right? In an interview would stop at 20 million. And then the interview will ask you, would you like to open a shop? What's your answer to that? In New York, would you like to open a shop that gives you $20 million of revenue by the end of year 1? That's my question for you. How do you answer that?
Sandeep, I got a question. Before we go there, how did you arrive at 10% market share? 10% is just arbitrarily taken, is it?
Arbitrarily. And I would have argued, like I tell you the way I would have come to 10 million. 10%. I would have said that there are these many shops in New York, and therefore I'm one or whatever. I'm 1 in 10 shops, or I'm 10 in 100 shops, or whatever the case may be. Therefore, I would have taken. But again, I'm narrating that. And if I say, oh, there are 100 shops in New York and I'm 1, then I would have taken 1%.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. But my question to you is, would you open a shop if there are $20 million worth of revenue in the taking? How do you answer that? That's my question. I'm not looking for an answer.
It depends on the cost.
And this is where the second thread starts. How do you find cost for making $20 million worth of pizzas? And I'm not going to delve deep into that. You can find out your own cost. You can make your own smart assumptions. If there are $20 million worth of pizza and each pizza is $10, then you basically making 2 million pizzas. If there are 2 million pizzas being served annually, then 2 million divided by 365 is the total number of pizzas made every day. If there are whatever 2 million divided by 365 pizzas in a day, maybe your shop is not 24 hours open, it's just 12 hours open. Therefore, times 2. Therefore, total number of ovens required, total number of people required, the rent you will pay for the shop, etc., 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 etc. And then you say, whoever said it earlier, my break even, is it even profitable? So thanks Viresh for saying that again. Is it even profitable? And therefore you start. But the point is, and here we all know what is profitability, we know what's cost, we know what's revenue. The point is, how do you make those smart assumptions on the fly to come up with a number which is meaningful? You'll not get 10 minutes for this question, you'll get 2 to 3 minutes at the max. Okay. So therefore, in order for us to get that, and again, going back to my healthcare example, I said $9 billion is my total cloud revenue, and I'm saying we will eat 1/3 share. 1/3 Google takes, 1/3 Amazon takes, 1/3 I will take as Microsoft, and therefore my total obtainable business is $3 billion by the end of 2020. And then we may grow. If the market grows, then we will grow. अगर market ही grow नहीं हो रही है healthcare का, I am not going to manufacture doctors. It's not Microsoft. Market grows, then I will grow accordingly. 3 का 5 कर लेंगे next 10 years में, right? And this is how we actually do it. Like I'm telling you, in Microsoft, that's how I would actually do. Okay. So we settled for a number called 20 million. We started with 15, went down to 800. From 800, we settled to 20. And as Viresh was trying to point out, then how would you even invest? You come up with a costing sheet and you do that quickly on your feet. Now, how do you do it on the feet? Is how I always say. So in this case, of course, you see the problem was inflated valuation. What I always say, practice, and therefore there is some homework. And the homework is, if you see, it's only SOM. I'm not worried about TAM and SAM. Those are just values that help you arrive at your SOM. I would love for you to tell me what should be the SOM for Gopal 56. What should have been the SOM for the media industry for Microsoft? What could be the SOM for cloud gaming for Amazon? The reason I'm bringing both of these into picture is maybe you're interviewing with one of these companies and you may get a real question like that. Now imagine I am saying SOM for media industry for Microsoft. You do not have that sheet open in front of you which says media industry is worth $200 billion. How do you even begin? You need to practice this in order to be able to do the market sizing correctly. And I can do various use cases of market sizing, right? I could say, what's the market size for refrigerator in India? What's the market size for a vending machine in America? Now you get it? Like how you have to do that slicing and dicing and be quick at it. Therefore, I am giving you this homework back. Please do this homework and share it back on this WhatsApp group. I would love to see your homeworks and I would love to validate what you are trying to solve for and how you are making your assumptions smarter. Do not spend more than 5 minutes in answering any of these questions. If you're spending more than 5 minutes or trying to do any search, you've lost the plot. Because the whole point is, how do you make smart assumptions? Do it in 5 minutes and bring it back. With this, I'm going to take a pause. I know I've just been on time, 5 minutes over, and I'll be staying here for questions. And this is where I get rid of this.
Yeah. So actually, hello, my voice is audible, sir.
Yes. You can call me Sandeep.
Yeah, Sandeep. Sandeep, sir, I want to, I mean, like, as we did for so many other things, can we do it for Yammer, Microsoft product?
Sure.
Yammer.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was more, I mean...
Do you want to do it right now or do you want to do it as a homework?
Yes, so that would be good, sir. Homework.
So there you go, I'll add it.
Okay.
SOM for, I wouldn't say Yammer, huh? I wouldn't say SOM for Yammer. I would say SOM for enterprise communication and chat. This would include Yammer and Teams both, by the way.
Okay, sir.
Right? Because see, the industry is enterprise communication and enterprise collaboration, which you can do by Slack, by Teams, by Yammer, etc., etc. Or it's not enterprise communication. I would say enterprise, social communication. Yes. Let's go figure out the SOM for that. And by the way, this is exactly how calculations are made. Even when I'm ideating and coming up with a particular venture, we talk this language even in Microsoft. We ask for TAM values, we ask for SAM values, and we ask for SOM values. And then we say, once you arrived at SOM, what's the growth projection? More often than not, you will find that growth is actually done by virtue of the industry itself growing, right? For example, if I suddenly ask you what's the virtual machine SOM for the industry, how many virtual machines are required? Now imagine this is the exact calculation that our Azure data center team must be doing to figure out how many servers do they need to put inside the Azure data center to provide virtual machines. These calculations can get very extensive, but this is exactly what is happening in the industry. Nothing different. And if you're an entrepreneur, please do not stop at TAM. I'm telling you again and again, this use case of pizza was almost forcing you to be very, very clear that, oh, TAM pe to nahi rukna hai. And the reason I took this simplistic example is to let you know that you don't need to stop at TAM. At times when you're trying to solve this problem for your own ventures, you will find yourself almost getting inclined to not go beyond TAM, because you have a rosy fairy tale in your mind. It happens. I did it for my own venture. I stopped that time and I found what a big mistake it was. Any other parting thoughts? I am done. For those who want to ask questions, by the way, Viresh, since you asked, right, I did that costing as well. For 20 million, what should be the total costing? And I came to the total cost of around 13 million. And therefore I said my, whatever my thing total would be around 7 million, my profit. And this is also what we do, profit before tax and profit after tax. If you have a business which has a profit after tax upwards of 20%, great, please go ahead. And this was just an appendix line. You may be asked to do it. You may be asked to do this as well. So you can see how I did it. We cooked 2 million pizzas. I need 1 oven, and these are all assumptions, huh? That I'm doing 10 pizzas per minute, which I got by dividing the total number of pizzas that I'm serving divided into 12-hour shifts. So 1000 pizzas per hour, which is 16 pizzas per minute, which means that I need 2 ovens plus 1 backup oven, and therefore the purchase cost is assumed, etc., etc. My labor, and I'm assuming 2 cashiers, 3 in the kitchen, 1 manager. What's my salary that I'm giving to them? What's my rent? What's my raw material for pizza? How much I'm paying for incidentals like electricity, water, garbage? Total came to around 13 million. This took me around 10 minutes because all of these numbers are made up. Okay. You don't need to, at times, you don't need to go into those details. Honestly, if you stop at SOM, the interview will be more than happy. But there are, for those who are applying for consulting positions like McKinsey's and BCG's of the world, you may end up doing something like this as well. And therefore, you figure out what your profitability is. Any questions? Oh, there are some hands raised. Sorry, I didn't see it. Are these hands raised from past, or you have some questions right now? Please go ahead.
Yeah, I have a
Hi,
question.
Sandeep. Am I audible?
Yes.
So my question is like here we first calculated TAM, then SAM, and then SOM. Now for the same example, like if we, because the example was for a pizza store in USA, so we know that the store would be in a particular region. So first, if we take, for example, the population of US, and then we know that the store is in US, then we come down to the population of New York, and then the population of the particular region where the store is, and then when we continue with the calculation, because in
Yes.
all the three, the calculation was same, right?
Yes.
So how this procedure is better or worse, or maybe the TAM, SAM, SOM procedure is better than the one that I adapted?
The one that?
The one that guides us.
Sorry, I didn't understand. I thought you were re-paraphrasing our conversation. What was the alternate? I didn't understand the alternate. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So my alternate was that first we take the population of US and then we assume that like for example, 10% would be the population of New York out of the total population. And then we assume that out of that, let's say 5% is the population of the region where my store is. We do
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
calculation beforehand only, and then we calculate SOM. So we'll directly reach to SOM
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah,
this.
yeah. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
no harm done. And that's why I'm saying I took a very, very simplistic example. But guess what? You can't do it in such use cases. What is the song for media industry in Microsoft? You cannot. You have to follow TAM Samsung. What is the song for cloud gaming in Amazon? You will have to do it. Enterprise social communication and chat, you you'll have to do it. You will start off with what's my media industry. Media industry is so much. How much of that share, like what we saw, right? That's why I gave you this example in parallel. I told you, right? I'm deliberately giving you a very simple example. But imagine if I say healthcare, how much can Microsoft make out of healthcare? You cannot directly arrive at a number called, oh, healthcare for Microsoft is this much. You can't do that. You'll have to go with, oh, $200 billion of healthcare industry, out of which they are spending only $9 billion on cloud. 9 billion. And out of 9 billion, by the way, I again did a very simplistic thing here saying 9 billion divided by 3. Cloud is so much, right? Cloud could be infrastructure, PaaS, SaaS, it could be CRM, it could be so many things. Where is Microsoft existing? Out of that 9 billion, how much are they spending on competencies that Microsoft has? Then I would have split that ways. Then after splitting that ways, I would have said, oh, in this area, are we even existing? What if AWS is 20% better than us? Therefore, our market share can't be 30%. Maybe it is 20%, depending upon that factor, right? So these calculations can get very, very complex. In this use case, what you're saying is absolutely right. You could have directly arrived at New York. But guess what? Nobody did. My question, I will repeat, when I began the conversation was, total addressable market for a pizza store in US. And I told you what's the total pizza. Nobody told at this stage, kahan khol rahe ho pizza store? We started with population. This is what you guys told, right? Population of US is 330 million, etc., etc. That's why the first leading question is important. Bhaiya store kahan khol rahe ho? My question didn't change. Did that make sense?
Yes, yes. Here.
Any other questions?
Hi Sandeep, I
Yeah,
have
I
one
have.
question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
We need some statistics, right? I mean, to reach to the near approximate level. I mean, what is the population of US? I mean, how many users of the Outlooks? So, I mean, do we have any cheat sheets like that to, I mean, to get this data? Because we have to be, I mean, we need to get a rational number. I mean, we can't assume that 1 billion people are Outlook users. So, I mean, just to sync with the market.
Yeah. So there are some cheat sheets. Huh? So first of all, you should be aware of population of some big cities in India. You should, like Bangalore, how many? Maybe 15 million. You should be aware of those numbers. You should be aware of the total population of the country. Total population galat nahi kar dena. And you should be aware of the total population of countries, wherever, US, India, wherever you want to go, right? Whatever country you want to launch your product, you should be aware of the numerals in which you are comfortable doing calculations. कि वहां तो बोल दिया आपने 1360 करोड़, बट नाउ यू आर लाइक 1360 करोड़ कितना मिलियन और कितना बिलियन होता है, क्योंकि ऑल माय कैलकुलेशंस आर लाइक सो मेनी मिलियंस एंड बिलियंस. A lot of people make that mistake. Okay, so to begin with, so there are two approaches. One is a top down, one is a bottom up. So whoever asked me that question, I think so, I don't know whether it was Sushmita, you or Menika, I don't know. The approach that you followed
I
was
have this question.
no, before you, where we said that, oh, I could have just landed on New York, right? You can absolutely do that. That's called a bottoms up approach. Starting with population is a top down approach. Okay, you can do sizing on both metrics. Both are correct. To get some of the cheat sheets, I would highly recommend, know your numbers with respect to total population. Get your numbers on demography. By the way, pizza was a dangerous one to do demography wise breakup, huh? Where you'd say that people above 40. people less than 40. ऐसा मत करो. Why? Because pizza तो सब लोग खाते हैं ना. Why are you making your life complex by slicing it by demography? Don't do that. There are some use cases where you have to slice down by demography. I'll give you a use case. What is the total value of edutech industry in India? अब edutech बोल दिया तो you can't say I will teach less than 3 and more than 40, whatever, or more than 30. And that too, if you say, oh, I am only teaching kids who are between 5 and let's say 18, this is a classic demography question where you should know the population size. How do you do it? It's up to you. There are various techniques for you to do it. You imagine the total population of India and then say simplistic assumptions. Don't make life complex. You say there is completely equal distribution of population of India in each age group. Great, your problem solved. 1 to 100 कर लो और उसको divide कर दो total number of people से, right? That is how you get your per age group demography, and then you multiply it with your factor of 18 or whatever the case may be. Make your life simple. Don't take numbers such as I'll multiply it by a factor of 18. Multiply it by a factor of 20. क्या हो गया? Right? So, and that's how you do quick assumptions, at least in your interview. You should know the population of Bangalore, of India, of Delhi, of Hyderabad, know the population of US, of New York, of California. If you want to get into questions such as market industry, I will give you a very safe number to begin with. Most industries, media industry, gaming industry, healthcare industry, all these are nearly $200 billion. Very safe number to begin with. You say, I have done some research. I believe media industry is around $200 billion. Out of $200 billion, 70% goes in production. 20% goes in post-production. Like, throw those numbers out. And then, because you're making a smart assumption and scope it down. Does that make sense? And
Yes,
I'll show
yeah.
it to you. I'm not kidding. Look at this. If I say total media industry TAM, number will be around $200 billion. Oh, it's $23 billion. I'm sorry, not 200. So media hatao, gaming dalo. Oh, it's 500. Huh? All my numbers are wrong. So don't. Oh, sorry. I'm right. $200 billion in 2021. Safe number. Why do you want to consider increasing? Right? Our total healthcare industry, TAM, healthcare industry, $200 billion. Great. Get these numbers out. Okay. Total, and let's say social communication enterprise. Okay, pata nahi, I don't even know whether this is the right term. Yeah, but you can come to it, huh? So it's not that, and you don't need to memorize these numbers. Please don't do that because you'll not be asked these numbers. So go with your top-down approach. More often than not, you'll get questions on where they begin with demography. अब जैसे मैंने रेफ्रिजरेटर का एग्जांपल लिया, how would you do it? You start with population of India, urban, non-urban, make some assumptions, 20, 80, 20% population is in urban. Let's assume a family size of 4 divided by 4. Therefore, these many houses, therefore those many refrigerators. Every refrigerator life has 15 years. So every 15 years, I need a refrigerator. So every family will have at least 4 refrigerators in their lifetime. And therefore, you proceed in that direction. So you see, and this is how quick it is. Because you're thinking and making smart assumptions as you go.
Yes, Sandesh. Yeah.
Any other questions? By the way,
Yes.
conversation's over now. I'm just hanging here for questions. Please.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I have two questions.
Please.
So, firstly, it's that we have two approaches, that is top-down approach or the bottom-up approach. So, top-down would be TAM, SAM, and SOM, and the bottom-up would be SOM, SAM, TAM, right?
Correct.
So, which is most preferable? Like, does it depend only on the product, or usually what do you suggest?
No, so there is no choice one way or the other. There will be questions that you cannot solve bottoms up. I just gave you an example. You can't solve what is the media industry for Microsoft question bottoms up. You can't. कैसे करोगे? Right? I'll give you refrigerator industry in India. It's a classic TAM question. You don't even need to go to Sam and Som. Has to be top down. If I say, oh, refrigerator industry in Kalka Ji in Delhi, sure. You may want to think it differently. Depends on how the question has been scoped for you.
Okay. And my other question would be that usually we just discuss that we have to know at least to say the population of, metro cities or something like India, US and everything. But if a firm or, wants to open its new branch in some rural areas or somewhere like Africa or somewhere like that, we really don't know. So if there is such a question in interview, then how do we know? See, now
Make smart
US is a
assumptions.
developed.
Make smart assumptions. I am
Without a
the
proper.
founder, I'm the CEO of Grameen Bank. Okay. Tell me, how many stores should I open for microcredit management in India? I'll give you this question. How do you even proceed?
Yeah,
Grameen Bank has to open
I don't know what is
microcredit.
the rural population or rural. I wouldn't know that. So,
Sushmita, therefore you need to make smart assumptions. I'll help you. 1,360 crore population in India. Or I don't know whether this is 1.3 billion, right? 1.3 billion, 70% in rural, 30% in urban, 70% of 1.3 billion. Out of 70%, only 30% need microcredit. Why 30%? Because 70% are either migratory or they are into services. Only 30% are where they need some kind of debt lending. 70% are operating in services industry, which is maybe they just don't need, and I can articulate deeper, right? Okay, so now 30% of 70% of 1.3 billion needed. Now that I've arrived at that number, within that number, now you see, I don't know these numbers, but I am making some smart assumptions with some conviction. And now I say, I will have to open a credit lending bank, which is in the vicinity, which can cater to at least 10,000 people. Why 10,000 people? Because it's an easy number. I will not say 7,500 number. 10,000 people, one bank. Now, since 10,000 is the number, therefore, whatever number I have calculated, divided by 10,000, those are the number of branches I need to open. हो गया. पॉपुलेशन पता है ना इंडिया की, उसके बाद स्लाइस एंड डाइस करते चले जाओ.
thank you.
आ जाएगा 15,000 आ जाएगा स्टोर्स.
Okay.
Get it? Any other question? There are some more hands raised. I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Yes, I have one question.
Yeah.
So how about if a product need high investment and like initial investment and the capex is too high that for maybe 1 or 2 years there will be no profitability, and there is a possibility that after 1 or 2 years the market will change, the market trend. So we need to analyze the market trend also after 2 years down the line. So
Very
how we
good
manage
question, Saurabh. Saurabh, I have a very quick question. You are in this call for what? For a PM interview, for entrepreneurship, or you're an existing PM?
I do handle the machine learning products. So so that's why like product understanding is also like much more needed for me. So I'm more into the machine learning and also I handle the products.
Okay, so you're an existing product manager.
Yes.
Got it. So the reason I asked you that question is because you don't need to get into this complexity in a PM interview. That's why I wanted to preempt it. So those who are here for PM interview questions, please don't overanalyze this conversation. See, market trends changing, factoring that aspect into your addressable revenue can get very, very complex. Okay, we do it like generally when I make my market sheets or my total addressable TAM, SAM and SOM sheets, I do consider it. And how do I'll give you a small example, right? Gaming, the industry is moving towards cloud gaming. Microsoft is in the business of consoles, right? Everybody knows it. You search it, you will find it. Now, how do I predict what could be a potential revenue coming out of cloud gaming? Of course, I can't tell you that, right? Because those are my calculations. But now think of it. Let's say your industry trend is changing. Where do you pivot? You pivot on some of your existing numbers. I pivoted on what are the console numbers. What is the industry variation that is happening in various regions where we have seen that shift happen. Wherever that shift had happened, can I extrapolate it to other regions and so on and so forth? Okay, if you give me an example, maybe I can talk through it. I took my own example because I'm already seeing a paradigm shift in some of the work that we are doing as Microsoft. So I took that as an example. If you have an example, maybe I can work with you on that.
Yeah,
Assuming I
the
know it.
examples are like intelligent automation product. Those are like machine learning products. So there, the profits is like sometime like maybe a couple of years down the lane. By the time the machine learning products will work and it will get trained, then only we get the product and it will become like kind of a marketable products. Otherwise, there is no profit.
Correct. So in that case, sort of your break-even point will be slightly longer, right? It will be like 1.5, 2 years maybe. Okay. So Saurabh, I'm so sorry. Huh? I know I'll come to your question, but there is a very important point that you've just raised. And I know a lot of people here are PM aspirants. I wanted to call out one important thing. Saurabh, I'll come back to you. Saurabh just said that what if my capex or the capital expenditure on my product is very, very high? If you are attempting a product management interview in any of the FANG companies, or even if you're an entrepreneur which is not dealing with hardware procurement and hardware build, you have to find ways to fail fast. You have to find ways how you build an MVP in order to get early learning so that you don't invest effort in building a product for 2 years and then only realize after 2 years that we went totally wrong. Even in your interviews, when you are deliberating over your solution, see how you can articulate your solution in your mind as to what could be an MVP that you are able to ship in the next 5 to 6 months. Don't start proposing products that will take 2 years to build. Okay, because you have to fail fast in order to realize how your product is even is working alongside the market. Okay, so I just wanted to take a deviation here. Thanks to Saurav for that question, because those who are attempting PM interview questions, please do not build products where the first scenario will take 2 years for you to validate. And that's the definition of MVP, which is what is your minimum viable product? What is the minimum that you can ship in order to learn, which also means what's your minimum COGS for you to get your early, may not be revenue, but early learning. Okay. This may not be applicable for hardware based investments. For example, when I have to make, let's say, a gaming console, I can't ship half a gaming console. I'll have to build the entirety, right? When Steve Jobs had to build iPhone, he couldn't have shipped half an iPhone. He had to build iPhone in entirety, which required the whatever 4, 5, 6 years of investment that he had to do. Does that make sense? Especially PM aspirants. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe.
Yes, it makes sense.
Thanks, Jensen. And we make that mistake. We make that mistake of articulating an MVP that will last for 2 years. Because then I will come back to your question, ki sikhoge kaise, right? Saurabh, to your point, when we are dealing with hardware, right? I have not dealt with hardware-based products. I don't know how to fail fast in a hardware product. So I don't have an answer for you. Especially when you're doing IoT automation, etc. A technique that I have seen, because I've dealt with hardware, because I am partially part of Xbox team and we do build hardware. Especially when we're launching new hardware, right? We start off with beta hardware, which means a slightly non-fancy version of the hardware gets shipped to a very specific cohort of customers who can give us early learnings, which we call as the early adopters. And from there we learn, and before we launch the actual hardware. And therefore we may not invest in hardware designing. We may not invest in, it must have an RJ45 jack for it to connect to the internet. right? Instead of investing in networking, maybe I will invest in a USB stick by which you can put a game inside a console and see whether it works, because networking stack will take more time, right? So therefore we cut corners for an MVP for a hardware that way. But I'm not an expert on hardware, so I'm not able to comment that if you have a hardware and you want to fail fast, how would you do?
Yeah, Sandeep, I would just like to really say something about the hardware topic or whatever this capex and all. I think it all depends on like, do you want to have a highly vertically integrated organization? Then this huge investment of capex would really come in. Otherwise, it's ultimately it's a make or buy, right? So you can really take small steps, just try to buy it from the market with minimum investment and see whether it really works out or not. Then go for the biggest capex investment. That's how we normally really do in the industry.
Great. That's a great input. Great input. Thanks a lot, Narayan.
No, I did. I didn't say that, but
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I wanted to say actually, I came from design background, so I went through this cycle actually, how mechanical design products are actually made. So something similar to, parallel to the software products. Yeah. So it starts with a concept. Yeah. So a concept is built actually first. With full thing, with full technology. Yeah. Then it goes to alpha, beta, then batch production. Then you have another, three batch productions, and then it is a rollout, production. Yeah. So the product is already been built, kind of 80% at the concept level itself. Yeah.
Got it. I think great. Thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing that. This is learning.
These days, the simulation tools are so advanced that you can simulate everything on your desktop, even without even spending $1 or euro. So
brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Simulation is a very good example. Totally agree. Any other questions? Alrighty. If you don't, thank you so much for staying back and listening to this. I hope this was valuable to you. And we will be meeting next Sunday as well at 8:30 p.m. For those who are new, please join the WhatsApp channel, because that's really where we decide. Okay, I think so. Narayan got dropped off and I'm going to admit him. That's where we decide what's the topic for the next Sunday. Okay, so please join in and I'll be more than happy to take up whatever you want me to discuss on the next week.